The 31st of July, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Okay, so yesterday we were in the middle of this Rashi. Did we finish the Rashi?
No, we were in the middle of it, I think.
Okay, so this is Rashi Dibur Maskal Kuli Alma Lo Pligi Deyachloiku. This is the Rashi, which is the second wide line, starts in the end of the first wide line. In Rashi on Zayin Amid Aleph. And we are explaining. Let's get back into this so we could remember what we're talking about over here. The Gemora brought a brisa, with two cases. Right now, the Gemora is focusing on the first case of the brisa. So the first case of the brisa was that, and this is really the beginning of the first two dots, the two dots, which is in the Gemora on the third wide line of the Amud, after the two dots, Taf Resh Tana Rabbanan, that we learned in a brisa that Shnai Madukim B'Shtar was talking about a borrower and a lender. Both of them are grabbing on very tightly, a dukim, to a star. Not just any star, but it's the loan agreement that the loiva wrote and gave to the malva, to the lender. Now again over here, the question is, who did it fall from? And so we got the claims. The brisa tells us the claims of both the lender and the borrower. Malva omer shalihu v'nafu mimeni umatzati. He says that this star is mine, meaning it was given to me, and it has yet to be paid, and it dropped from my hand somewhere, and went lost until it was found. So he's really claiming that it should be given back to him, and as such, he'll be able to collect for the full amount that's stated therein. And the Lova says, Shilchahu, the Lova even admits that it's yours. This funny thing that he says that it's yours, right? So, but then at the same time that he says that it's yours, he says, Parativ lacha, I paid you up. I paid you up in full. So as far as the star goes, you could take the star, but I paid you up. That's his claim. So now in this case, we got a machlokes between Rebbe and Rebbe's father, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and the son and the father are arguing about the din. Rebbe says that what do we got to do? Yiskayim Ashtar b'chosamov. We got to get this star authenticated. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says we just divide it between them. Divide it between them. What it says in the star. He'll get half, and he'll get half. So he'll have to pay him half of what it says in the star. Okay. So now, remember that the Gemora came out and said, Rava said in the name of Rav Nachman, the truth of the matter is if this star would be an authenticated star, so then there would be no machlokes in this case. Everybody would agree. Yachloiku. So with that, took down the Gemara's question. Why do we say why is this brisa different than the Mishnah? The Mishnah says Shnai Moksim Batalis Yachloiku. We divide it. Why over here do we don't divide it? So Rav says in the name of Reb Nachman, the truth of the matter is, if the shtar would be a shtar Makuyim, we would. That's exactly what the brisa holds. The Tanoim of this brisa, they're not arguing about that case. They're arguing about a different case. They're arguing about a case of a shtar which is a shtar which has not yet been authenticated. That's the machlekes. And in that case, the Gemara said, Rebbe Savar Moda Bishtar Shekosvoy Tzarik Lekaimo. Even though the Loiva admitted that he wrote this shtar and he gave it to the Malva, but nevertheless, in order for him to collect from it, the Malva needs to get it authenticated. And that's what Rebbe says. Polig. And if he gets it authenticated, what will we do? We'll divide it. We'll divide it. He's not going to get the whole thing. We'll divide it. Imlo Mekayim Le, but if he doesn't get it authenticated, so then Lo Poli. We won't divide the. We won't give anything to the Malva. He'll get nothing. Why? Because this shtar itself is a worthless piece of paper, according to Rebbe. You'll say, but the guy admitted that that he wrote it and gave it to him. Yeah, but he also said that that shtar that he wrote up and he gave it to the Malva, he already paid it up completely. So if you're going to go by him, he says there's nothing to pay. So that's what we're going to do. If he doesn't authenticate it. Okay. So that's where we're holding. And now we read the first line of Rashi, I believe. Okay, so who do we got over here today? I saw Phil, but Phil is he's not on mic and not on video. But he's coming in, I guess.
Yeah, I heard you forgot to turn it on, but I've been around.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the house. I'm not on the road today, so it's okay.
Okay, Phil. So we're up to the Rashi over here. Kule alma lo pligi diachloku.
Okay. Kule alma lo pligi diachloku. All agree that we do divide it up. They don't argument that we divide.
If it would be a shtar which has been Mekuyim that was found.
Okay.
In other words, Rashi said that we saw on the shtar, it's got a henpeck. What's it mean it got a henpeck? It says that the Bezdin have made their official stamp, and they wrote in this shtar that witnesses have come and they've identified and authenticated the signatures, and we therefore certified the authenticity and the kashrus of this shtar.
Okay. The Chi Omrin, if we say the Kayem Hashtar, that we've authenticated the shtar, the Chom To, with the signatures, Lo Magabe Malva, the lender doesn't collect Kulam, all of it, at all. Kama to say, Elarada, the Magabe Pligi, he only collects half of it. Because that's right. It says Yechloku. So if it's Yechloku, he only collects half of it. The Pligutenu, and its division, it's half, is Kashe'enu, is it when it isn't Mekayen, That's the same word, certified.
Yeah.
Rebbe, when it's not certified, Rebbe Savar, Rebbe holds, Apple P, Helalva, even though the lender, Moda, admits it on it, Shekatav, star that he written this star, Balave, low, and he doesn't borrow him money. Shrich.
So Rafa Pisha Lava Moda, Jakosov Star, Zed, below most.
The borrower, the Kayem, he needs to certify it with his signatures, with the signatures.
Right.
The star is in his hands. Neyman, he's believed. Paratich, I paid you. The call of all calls, I paid you. The calls man all the time. She'enu mekayem, that it's not certified. Man, kimashve. What's kimashve? It's compared to
Kamashve. Who's the one that's making this star worth anything? Mashve, to equate it to having something that equals something.
Right. The man who equates the star, the stara, is the lava. It's the lender. Shemodeh, that admits to him. Shekar Tavlo, that he wrote on it. That he wrote it, that it was written by him. Omer, that this said, the pariah, that he's collected it. Aval, Shahashtar, that the document is Murzak al Piedi. It's strengthened by on the mouth of the witnesses. Ain halava, not the lender is not believed. Lomar, to say, Parati, I paid it off. Hilcha, therefore, ze shneim, they both of them, zokim, they both have a claim on it, so to speak. If it was certified by Hamalva, the borrower, the edut with witnesses in Mashve, and it equates star the document mail by itself. Ain halal halova, the lender is he's not believed the emirata with his saying ella only al yedei chazaka, only his strength, the strength of Duke, well, that is a Duke is strong at him, is given to him.
He's holding on to it. A Duke bow. He's holding on strongly to this star.
Rehu Kishar, it's like all the others, Matsino, that we find the plague. It's like anybody who find, like it's like the finding case, the plague, and we divide it up.
It's like any other case of a lost item. That's the case of our Mishnah. In that case that Rashi's talking about, which in that case, they would both agree that you would say like Yachleiku, like we do say in the Mishnah. Okay, so there's a lot over here that you can see this along Rashi, because Rashi had a lot of explaining to do. There's a few points over here that Rashi mentions along the way to explain what's going on over here. So first of all, Rashi is saying the Kiyamri, I'm just going to start from the beginning of the Rashi again. The Kiyamrin in the Eskayam Ashtar, Rebbe said in this Brisa that they got to be Makayim the shtar and authenticate the signatures. Loi lemigve malva kuloi ka'amar. He didn't mean to say that if the guy does that, he's going to now go ahead and collect the whole amount that it says in the shtar. No. Ella lemigve palge. He's going to collect palge. Now, this word palge in this discussion that Rashi is saying is very confusing. Rashi is using this word palge for two different to refer to two different things, and you got to know based upon the context of the sentence which meaning Rashi is giving it to. Here, Rashi is talking about palge to divide the amount of the shtar. The shtar, let's say, is 1,000. So then if the malva authenticates the shtar, Rashi says, lemigve palge, he'll collect half of it. So, but Rashi says right after that, he says upluktaihu. Now, pluktaihu is not referring to it's referring to the machloikis between Rebbe and Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel, the father. Pluktaihu, not talking about dividing anything. We're talking about the argument between Rebbe and Rebbe Shimon Gamliel, because right, the word plukta means to divide, and it also means argument, because that's what an argument is. People are divided about something, right? So it's the same word, but just the way that it works out in Rashi's discussion, it's a bit confusing unless you know what the context that Rashi is speaking about. So here Rashi says pluktaihu in the brisa between the father and the son. They're arguing about a case with a shtar which has not yet been authenticated. And what's the machlokes all about? Here, Rashi's going to go ahead and explain what's the din of what does Rebbe hold over here? Rebbe saw af opi shahaloive modele shekosav shtar zeh. Even though the loiva has admitted, the borrower, he's admitted that he wrote this shtar. So what does that mean, that he wrote the shtar? It means that he really borrowed money from this guy. The loiva loimos, he really loaned him money. There was a loan. That there's no doubt. He owed money. Nevertheless, Rebbe is of the opinion that the Malva needs to authenticate this shtar. And Rashi is going to explain why it is that he needs to authenticate this shtar. This, I think, was Lou's original question. Why does he have to authenticate it? The authentication can't be any better than what the Lova himself said. The Lova himself said, I wrote this shtar. I did borrow money from this guy. And isn't that all the shtar is telling us? So why do we need to authenticate the shtar right now? That's a good question. Rashi's going to discuss this. This is really Rashi's whole discussion over here. Why is it that according to Rebbe, he needs to authenticate this shtar? Afilu ashtar biyado. And even if the shtar would be in his hand, neman haloiva loima praticha. The loiva would be neman to say that he's paid it. Now, let me ask you a question. Rashi didn't clarify whose hand that it's in over here. But he just says, even if it's in his hand, the borrower, rather, will be believed in this case. If the shtar has not been authenticated, he'll be believed to say that he paid it up. And then the malva won't get nothing. So over here, Rashi means to say, in our case, they're both holding on to the shtar. But here, Rashi seems to be going even further than what the Brisa says. Afilu hashtar biyado, meaning if the shtar would only be in the hand of the malva, the loiva would be neman on a shtar which has not been authenticated to say, yeah, true, I wrote it. but I paid it. So how's the Malva holding on to it? Because probably it fell from the loiva, and for some reason, I think Rafal Arya asked this question. But what about why don't you write in the thing that it's been paid up? So if you write in it doesn't matter whose hand it's in. Okay, good question. But here we're talking about a case where the shtar has not been even authenticated yet. It hasn't been authenticated yet. Oh, but you're asking, even if it hasn't been authenticated, but when he pays it up, he should demand that the Malva initial in and said paid up in full, or give him a receipt that says he's paid up in full. Okay, so we'll have to say that we're talking about a case. You're right, 100% right. We're talking about a case where he lost the receipt and they didn't write it in the shtar. That's got to be the case that we're talking about. And the Malva is holding the shtar. And nevertheless, Rashi says, if the guy has not authenticated this shtar, the Lova will be Neman to say that he paid it up, even if the Malva is holding the shtar in his hands, which is generally a presumption that, if he's holding it into his hands, that means that the Lova didn't pay it up yet. Got it?
Is it possible to say that the authentication is not referring to the original signatures, but it's referring to the new signature when the Malva signs to say, yes, you paid me?
Well, I was just about to say, it says B'chosamov. The Chosamov are the signatures, but you're saying, yeah, the signatures are the signatures of the two people that signed on the shtar that the Lova has paid it off.
The reason I'm suggesting that is nothing has changed about the original signatures. So there's no reason to suspect that they won't be verifiable. The question is, what's new that might not be verifiable?
But see, the thing is like this, Lou. The thing is like this. If this shtar that Rashi's going to say over here, let's let Rashi do the talking. I hear your question, and I think at the end of Rashi's discussion, we'll have an answer to your question as well.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what Rashi says: Kol zman she'eno mekuyim, as long as this shtar has not been authenticated, man kamashvile shtara. Who's the one who has authenticated? Who's the one that regards this document as a shtar? Who's the one that makes it into a shtar that the shtar is there to say that there was a loan that was made? Loiva, the Lova's the one. Shemodelo, Shekosvo. He's the one who authentic. He's the one who is essentially giving credence to the fact that there was a loan that was made, because he is admitting that he wrote the shtar and gave it to the Malva. Yeah, but if you're going to go according to his words, then Ha'amar de Paria, he said, yeah, but I paid up this document. I paid up this loan. So therefore, it seems to me that what we're saying over here when we say the shtar is not makuyim, we mean to say that the shtar has never been authenticated as a document that a loan was ever made. And the only one who is, so to speak, giving it any credence is the loiva himself, who is admitting that he wrote it. Yeah, true. But at the same time, he is the same one who is claiming that he paid it off. So therefore, Rebbe holds that if you're going to believe this loiva if you're going to use this loiva in order to make this shtar a valid star, well, then you're going to have to, at the same time, take from him his claim that he paid it up as well. And therefore, at the end of the day, then the Malva's not going to get anything at all, because we're going to with this is in Yeshiva Sprach. This is called that the Loiva has a koach hataina. He's got a pesha usher over here. Pesha usher hua pesha hitzir. What does that mean? He's the mouth who made this document into a star. And yeah, but he's also the one with the mouth who said that the document has been paid up. So you can't split his statement into two and say we're going to believe him in regard to the authenticity of the star, that it's really a loan was made, but we're not going to believe him that he paid it. That we're not going to do. That's called, he's got a pesha usher, who a pesha hitir. He's the one that created the obligation, and he's the one that said he paid the obligation. Okay? Continues, so with that, I believe I think it's clear from Rashi's words that he understands that what we're talking about, when we're talking about the authentication of this star, we're talking about that a loan was made altogether, not the question of whether the loan was paid. So the signatures that we're talking about is the signatures that are testifying to the fact that there was a loan that was made. Aval, continues Rashi. Misha hashtar mufsak al pi edav. Oh, but once we authenticate this star and the signatures to the star that a loan was made have been authenticated, and that now means that the star is a star makuyim. At that point, ein haloiva neman loimar parati. The neman will not be believed now to say that he paid it up, because we don't need his statement that he wrote it. His statement that he wrote it doesn't help us. Doesn't give him any strength to say and I paid it up. Because we don't need his statement now that he admits that the star was made. Even if he wouldn't admit that the star was made, we have witnesses that came in and they authenticated the signatures on this star. So that makes this star into star makuyim. Now the only question is, well, the star itself, on the face of it, is a proof that a loan was made. Now, the question is, well, maybe the loan was paid off. Do we have any proof that the loan was paid off? No. All we have is the Loiva's claim that he paid it. Well, that's very nice that that's what he says. But we're not going to take that and take on that he paid it, especially when we have a star makuyim, which means that we have witnesses basically that are saying that the Malva loaned the Loiva money. So it's the word of the Loiva against the two witnesses in the star of the Malva that said that there was a loan that was made. And in that case, Rashi says, we're not going to believe the Loiva. We're not going to believe the Loiva. All the Loiva has to his credit over here is he doesn't have anything in the star that says that he that he paid it, and he doesn't have a receipt that the Malva gave him that he paid it. All he says is, I paid it. So that we're not gonna that we don't believe. Now Rashi concludes, Hilkach, therefore, now this that we're talking about in our case, Shnai Madukim B'Shtar, both the Loiva and the Malva are grabbing onto this star. So therefore, Rebbe says, I Makayim le Malva be'edis umashvile star malia if the Mal, he's explaining Rebbe. Rebbe says, if the Malva is going to now go ahead and authenticate the signatures on this star that verify that a loan was made, Ein aloiva neman but mi rosoi. The loiva will not be a neman in his words that he said he paid up the whole amount. Ella, rather, ayidei chazaka zesha adupo. The most that the loiva's got going for him is that he's holding on to this star. That's his greatest asset over here. V'harei hu kashar Metzia upolig. And so therefore, Rashi concludes that in this case, we're going to now treat it like any other lost item in the world. And like it said in our Mishnah, Shnaim oksim betalis. This one says it belongs to me. This one says it belongs to me. What do? We divide it. And that's what Rashi says over here. That's Rashi's last words. Upolig. Here, Rashi, when he says polig, he means we divide it. We divide the amount in the that it says in the document. If the document said 1,000, so we'll say so then we'll turn to the lobe and say, okay, you got to give him 500, but you don't have to give him 1,000. Why? Because you're holding on to this star. What does that tell us? That tells us, well, I mean, there's a possibility that he's paid the whole thing. Because he's holding on to it. Holding on to it gives him a chazaka that it's his. If we would know that it's his, then that would be the biggest proof that he's paid it. But not his words. His words are worthless in this case. The fact that he's holding on, that's worth something. But he's not the only one who's holding on to this star. There's somebody else holding on to it, and that's the Malva. And the Malva says it fell from him. So now Rashi says, really, this is a case exactly like the Mishnah. If the guy authenticates the star, then we'll say, divide it. But otherwise, if he doesn't authenticate it, if it's not an authenticated star, if he fails to be able to authenticate it, so then he's not going to get anything. But the loiva said that he admitted that the loan was made. Yes, on that we say pesh asa pesha hitir. The loiva now has a koyach hataina. Since he's the one that he's the only source of our information who says that there was a loan that was made. He admits that the loan was made. He admits that he wrote the star and he gave it to the Malva. Yeah, but he's the one also who said he paid it up. So like that, if the star is not makuyim, so then the loiva has a koyach hataina to be neman to say that he paid it up. Okay. Very interesting Rashi and very interesting Gemora. Alamdisha Gemora. Okay. So far that's just the view of Rebbe. Now we got to hear what's Reb Shimon Gamliel hold? What does the father hold? What's hold the tate? Okay. Oh, so let's go back to the words let's go back inside into the Gemora, and we're going to read what it is that Rava Amar Reb Nachman said that Reb Shimon holds about all this. Because so far we've just discussed what Rebbe holds. Remember, what does Reb Shimon hold? He says Yachloiku. So now, according to Rashi's Perish, that Rashi says that they're arguing about a case where the star was not Makuyim. So Reb Shimon Gamliel says, in that case itself, he says still Yachloku. Let's read Rashi. I'm sorry. Let's read the Gemora now. The Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel Savar, and this can be found in your standard Gemora, in the middle of the second wide line from the bottom. Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel Savar. Okay, Rafael Aryeh, would you like to read for us in the Gemora?
Yes, and where are you? First word.
You have I'm working with a standard Gemora. If you take a look at the second line from the bottom of the page,
Kamar.
in the middle of the line, you'll see the Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel Savar.
The Rebbe Shimon ben Gamliel Lavar. Let me make sure I'm here. So Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel holds Mode Bishtar She Ketavo Ein Tzarich Lekaimo, that if he admits the person who took out the loan, he admits that he made up a shtar contract. Ein Tzarich, he doesn't need to have certified, substantiated. The Kaimo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I muted or?
Yeah. I was looking inside. So you read.
Did you read? If he admits that he wrote on the shtar, he signed the shtar with the person that lent him, it doesn't have to be certified. That's what I asked you yesterday. Obviously, somebody's not admitting something here. So, in other words, if he says, "Sure, I filled out the shtar with the guy," he doesn't have to have it authenticated. Is that right so far?
Yeah. Who doesn't have to have it authenticated? The Malva. The Malva is the one that would need to authenticate the shtar. So this is the machlokes between the father and the son over here.
Okay.
We read before, according to Rebbe, the Rebbe says, if the loiva admits, that's what it means over here. Shtar shekosmu, moda b'shtar shekosmu, moda b'shtar b'kosmu. If the loiva admits that he wrote this shtar, meaning to say, he wrote this shtar because the malva gave him a loan. So in order to get the money from the malva, he's got to give him a shtar, an IOU that says, I owe you this 1,000 that you're loaning me.
Correct.
So in this case, and that's the case that we are talking about in the Brisa. We're talking about a case where the loiva said shelchahu. That's what he meant to say. It's your shtar, meaning I wrote it and I gave it to you, right?
Right.
But and so then Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, with a shtar like this, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds ein sarich l'kaimo. The malva does not need to authenticate the signatures on this shtar. Now, right. Rebbe said that he did. That's their machlokes. Rebbe said that the malva needs to authenticate the signatures on this shtar, because if he doesn't do so, what are we going to say? We're going to say, oh, the loiva, he's. How do we know that this shtar is not a worthless piece of chard? It's all because of what the loiva said. The loiva said he wrote it and he gave it to the malva because the malva gave him a loan. Yeah. Oh, so you wanna authenticate the shtar because of what the loiva said? 1 second. But the loiva said he paid it. So you can't cut his statement in two and say that we're going to believe you halfway that the shtar is a valid shtar, but you didn't pay it. Rebbe says that in that case, the loiva would be neman to say that he paid off the star, and that'll be under the story. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, his father, he says no. Nevertheless, even if the loiva admits that the star, that he wrote the star, gave it to the malva, there was a loan, he's admitting that. Nevertheless, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, "Ein sarek l'kaimo."
Doesn't have to be.
He says at that point, the malva does not need to authenticate the star. Right. He doesn't need to authenticate it. But afu gabdalo makayam le, and even though he doesn't authenticate it, yakloku, let them divide it.
That's because the lender is still in possession of the star. If he would have made it, the borrower
both of them are on the star.
What?
That's the Brisa says shnaim adukim b'shtar. Two people are holding on to this star, both the loiva and both the malva.
Two people are holding
on. What?
Two people have a piece of paper in their hand. Is that what you're saying? They walked into court with a piece of paper between them like a talus.
Yeah.
One's got the edge, one's got the other edge. I got it first.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that it's not authenticated, it doesn't matter because in this case, the borrower will have to pay half, even if he says he paid for it because it wasn't authenticated.
Right. In this case, exactly, Rebbe says without an authentication, then we would believe the loiva to say that he paid it in full. But Rebbe Shimon Gamliel says, no, we're not going to believe him to say that he paid it in full. We see that the malva is holding on to it also. So even though he hasn't authenticated it, but it's enough for us that the loiva authenticated by admitting that he wrote it and gave it to him. And now that they're both holding on to it, we don't know who it fell from. So it's like it's already like a Metzia, even though they didn't authenticate it, the malva, and therefore they're going to divide it just like that. That's what Rav Shimon Gamliel holds.
Sounds to me like the guy who's trying to get away with it, the borrower who doesn't want to pay it back. That's his case. Because if the lender still is in possession of it, you would assume it's still a valid debt. Normally, when a person pays, he doesn't have to get people to authenticate. He gives the paper over to the guy and says, "Rip it up, keep it, do what you want. If you lose it and it ends up in my house again, I don't know. My children may say you still owe it. I'd burn it if I were you." But at that point, if they both came in holding it, I'm trying to think this deceitful borrower who says, "I paid." It sounds like if they both have one edge of the paper, one might pull a little bit harder and say, "No, let me see that. Oops, what do you know? It ripped in half. Now it's toilet paper." Or is it still valid?
Okay.
I'm asking, if it's ripped in half, is it still valid?
Your time is up.
Ripped in half, is it still valid?
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on do we have witnesses that can testify that they were pulling onto it and then it ripped in half? So then we know how it got ripped.
Okay, so they walked all the way to court from one guy's house with two hands on a piece of paper, and the guy who's deceitfully trying to get away with saying, "I paid for it," he tends to be very careful to walk close with his buddy. So by the time they get to it doesn't rip. Okay.
Lou, today? Okay.
Maybe they wrote it on a cloth. I don't know if they had paper back then.
I don't know, Alan. I have to call you.
Okay.
Did they have paper back then, or maybe they wrote it on a cloth? Cloth you can't tear.
You can write on a piece of stone, but the guy who's holding it wants it to be destroyed. I just want it. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
All the best.
Okay. I'll wait your call.
Have a great day, everybody.
All
right.
Bye, Alan.
Okay.
Bye, Luke. Full Aryeh. And Phil. And Refuah Shleim.